Hi everyone, Scott from Yunnan Sourcing here. I'm going to answer a question that was sent to me. Um, we know him only as, or her, as moveoolong on Reddit. That's their handle. And they ask, what is the theme of your puerh line? You tend to revisit the same areas each year. What makes them the teas that you want to sell with your brand name attached to them? Well, that's a good question, and I could probably spend a long time answering that question. Um, I think one of the main things, you know, there's a lot of tea and there's a lot of areas, and sometimes I think, oh, well, it would be nice to have tea from all these different areas. It would be nice to have, equal representation of all the areas of Yunnan in our collection. Um, There's a few reasons why we tend to focus on a few different areas. One of the reasons, I think the main reason, well, maybe not the main reason, but the first reason that comes to mind is we tend to really look for, like the rest of our offerings, we really want to offer something with a really strong price to quality ratio. So that kind of immediately rules out certain areas, like Lao Banjiang, for example, where teas tend to be, you know, 10 or 15,000 RMB per kilogram. Um, who wants $1,000 young raw puer cake? I mean, when you spent that kind of money, you really want to wait around and let it age. So anyways, I mean, that's an extreme example of Lao Banjiang. Um, but we really are looking for gu shu cha, aka old tree tea leaves, or at least old plantation, 60, 80 years old, hundreds of years old is always nice too. But the main thing is some of these areas have just really gotten incredibly expensive, and when I drink them side by side by side, and I still get a lot of samples of some areas, Jingmai. I'm just get really picky when the price goes high, because I really want to make sure that when people buy tea, the amount of money that they spend, there's buys them a certain level of tea. Um, so, that's one of the reasons there. The other reason I think is because we work with certain people, certain growers in different areas, and it's really important to me to have that relationship with them because sometimes I've met people who grow tea or who deal in tea, and they have some great teas, but if we can't come to an agreement, or I can't trust them, or they're inconsistent, or they use pesticides, or they say they don't use pesticides, but then when we have them lab tested, which we do, um, they come back not clean. So, given that for Yunnan sourcing brand puer cakes, they all have to pass EU MRL, or the maximum residue limits set by the EU for pesticides in tea. They all have to pass. And ideally, they all have to get a perfect score. So, the people that I work with and the areas and the villages that I source tea from, and one of the reasons that we keep going back to those places is because we have a good relationship with the people there. They like to sell us tea. We like to buy their tea, and they understand that they can't use pesticides. And when somebody comes to me and they have a good tea, it's maybe from old trees or from 60, 80, 100-year-old plantation bushes. It tastes good. It's processed correctly. It's clean, no pesticides, and I've always had a good relationship with said person. I'm much more likely to continue to produce those teas um, because I think what's important really is more than having a representative sample of all the different areas of Yunnan, which is, if I create that expectation, when I first started out, I thought, oh, I have to have Jingmai tea, or I have to have Mando tea from Bulong, or I have to have Mongsong tea. And when you do that, you're kind of setting yourself up, because instead of searching for good tea that's good quality, and there's a quality price relationship, you're getting stuck on I have to offer tea from this area. And then, what if you don't have, what if all the samples of, opportunities that you have to purchase these teas, um, and none of them are really good, sometimes, and you've set yourself up, so really it's about good tea, good quality, strong price quality relationship. I drink a lot, pretty much all the Mao Cha when I first get them. Um, I line them up, and I don't look. I face the they usually come in the silver pouches that we ship our loose leaf teas in, and I face them away from me, and I'll drink one, two, three, four, usually four in a sitting or three in a sitting, and I don't look at the price. I don't look at where they're from. I just drink them, and sometimes it's really surprising, because the best teas are not always the most expensive. Um, so, anyways, I hope that answers your question. I kind of went off on a tangent, which I tend to do. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Just relationships with other growers, and really wanting to, like, you know always have a really strong quality price relationship on the teas, because if you can convince somebody to spend money on tea, you don't want to convince them to buy a tea that's overpriced because the domestic market, um, has, because it's famous, or because it's a from a famous village, or things like that. I don't care about that. Sometimes those famous areas, there are good teas there, but more often than not, a lot of those areas have become, sought out and over harvested, and there's tons of people trying to get those teas, and so the price is crazy, and then the farmers are using more pesticides and fertilizers because of it. Because if you have a tea that's $200 a kilo, and the farmer can increase the production by 15% by spraying pesticides, or pesticide fertilizer combinations, which cause the tea to grow faster and produce more. You figure, $200, that's another $30 right there. So, if you have a tea that's, $100 or less per kilo, or $100, that there's, as the tea gets cheaper, what I'm saying is that there's less of an incentive for people to use pesticides and artificial fertilizers. So, yeah. So again, hope that answered your question. I don't think I can say anything else